right, welcome everybody to a special episode of Prepper Talk Radio. This is a special episode based on some of the things that are happening in the news. We wanted to kind of capture the spirit of this before it got too late, or as soon as possible, so that we can get as many people prepared and ready and informed as possible. I've got with me a special guest here today. You've probably recognized him from past podcasts we've had, Todd Nielsen with Nielsen Training and Consulting. He's a fantastic resource. Maybe we'll get a little bit of his background to kind of just remind people about who he is and why he's important. But he works with a company that we're going to be kind of talking about with first, and then we'll kind of go into some of the knowledge and information that he has to share. But the first thing we wanted to remind you about is that click like and subscribe at all of our locations and come visit our website and join our email lists. So Todd Nielsen is affiliated with a company called Fight Back Nation. And I believe Fight Back Nation, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but Fight Back Nation's main purpose is to help teach and train teachers in schools how to fight back in the event of an active shooter situation. Is that the gist?
Yeah, the majority of stuff that Fight Back Nation teaches is geared towards the schools, but it also applies in the corporate environment and also any environment where it could be a lot of people that are in the area or milling around.
So with what's happening in the news recently and over the last several years, in fact, we've seen an increase, quite a significant increase in these active shooter scenarios where they're coming in and to crowded areas and just opening fire. And, you know, it's horrid that this happens, and it's absolutely ridiculously wicked that this is happening anywhere. However, I feel like there's a certain level of wickedness when it happens in a school to children that are innocent specifically. And so, recently we've had that in Nashville, there was the shooting that happened there. There's been several over the last little while for that, but this is kind of the fresh one that's in our mind right now. In fact, where we live, where you and I live, there was a threat of active shooter that was called in. Thankfully, it ended up being a prank. But those people who think that kind of stuff is funny or kind of even remotely a prank, pranks are supposed to be fun. Like everybody's supposed to have a good time with it. That's not what this is. Like when you traumatize a student body by having police officers rush in, kids barricading doors, that's not I mean, thankfully it was a prank, so it wasn't a real shooter, but man, that's still traumatizing. It still causes a psychological effect, right?
Well, yeah, it causes a psychological effect for everyone involved. So the students, the teachers, the administrators, the dispatchers, the police, the fire, the EMS, all those people that are involved, they have to treat it regardless of whether or not they know that it's probably a prank.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to treat it like it's real. So the kind of the reality of it is the deal that happened for us last week. There were two specific high schools that were targeted here in this county, and then there were three other schools that were targeted up in some northern counties of Utah. So when you think about the resources that were dwindled away and taken away because of this prank, you are endangering many people's lives just because now you've got a diminished police response, you've got a diminished fire response, you've got a diminished EMS response, because they're tied up on this false event. So let alone all the trauma that's going to come from that, from having to officially lock down a school, having to barricade each individual classroom, sweep through the school, make sure that there are no threats inside the school and everything else. It's just, when you look at the totality of it, this is not a prank. And to be honest with you, I kind of look at this stuff like, are they kind of probing to see what our responses are going to be? How fast are they? Are they testing to see what our response times are and what are the tactics that are going to be used in order to combat this scenario? So I don't know. That's just the way that I look at it from a tactical background. So
Well, anybody who's got the training that you have, and if you want to take a minute and kind of remind everybody what you do, and that's fine. But anybody with the training that you have, you just don't take any of that kind of stuff for granted. Like,
yeah,
are they causing a distraction over here so that they can provide, or so they can carry out some activity or event over there?
right.
And that's real. That happen. I mean, everybody thinks, well, it's in the movies, it's not real. Well, the movies are hyper real. They actually show us real scenarios, but they do it in a dramatic way that we can be entertained. But
Yes.
the things that are happening are actually real in real life. Like, criminals really do that. Like, bad guys, wicked men, and wicked people in the world do those things. And so there's people that are suffering in the same ways that we see in movies often, in real life every day. And so, what is Fight Back Nation? How did it get started? What is your role in it? Like, why? Tell us a little bit about that.
So Fight Back Nation was started by a great man by the name of Dave Acosta. He started it as a way for training teachers to be able to add to the run, hide, fight protocols that the national government is putting out. The run and the hide stuff, that stuff is relatively simple. And we do talk about and do a bunch of training specifically about that in the Fight Back Nation courses. But then nobody was willing to actually step up and do a program that actually had the fight back portion of it.
Hmm.
So Dave put that together. He had it running for about, I think it was 3 to 4 years prior to him passing away. And then we had about a year to a year and a half that it just kind of sitting there. And, you know, the tactical community is a very tight knit community as it is. And Dave and I were buddies. We were literally talking about putting some programs together and some collaborations and stuff literally 2 weeks before he passed away.
Wow.
And, so when it came time to kind of talk about putting some more Fight Back Nation stuff together, it all of a sudden it just turned into a good fit. And with the cadre that I have within my training companies and the resources that I have, it made it a very easy transition to move into helping keeping this program together. And as a matter of fact, last year we started working with a couple of agencies to actually push it into a national program that can be used as a role model all across the United States.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, is it grown recently as you've had? Have you had have you had more people kind of ask you to come in and help train as this kind of stuff has been growing and happening across the nation?
Yeah, and it seems like every time that there's an attack, there's a huge increase in I want to get trained, I want to get some knowledge in this particular space as it is, and so we do start putting on. We try and keep classes going on a regular basis, but the realities are the demands aren't as high unless there's an incident that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we're lucking out because on the 10th, next Monday, we're doing a free program that's open to the public. It's not just teachers and administrators. It's going to be open to the public so that they can see what the program's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a business complex or you're in a campus of some sort, it's a good chance for you to come and look at the program, see if it would be something that would be good for you, where we can set up a private event specifically for you. But it's free to the public. We're going to be doing it at the American Preparatory Academy from 6 o'clock until 8 p.m. It's right there at the Academy gym, and everyone is involved. I've reached out to a number of police officers that I know to come down, and then they can talk about how their response is going to be too. Or if you have some direct questions you want to talk to the local police about, they'll be there for you to ask those questions.
Yeah, you were one of the first people I called after I heard my son went through that situation. I was like, "Hey, as a dad, can I grab can because I have my concealed carry, and
Yep.
you've trained me on a couple, not as much as I want, but you'll train me more as time goes on. But you've
Yeah.
trained me on a few things." And I was like, "Hey, what can a dad do? What can a mom do in a scenario like, you know, in a scenario like that, where there might be, like we saw that one mother, for example, and I don't know, it wasn't this last one, but it was the one before, where the mother actually went in and got her kids out after being
Yeah.
detained by the police. And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, shoot, I I could go in as a father perhaps, but I don't want to be mistaken as one of the, perpetrators. So it just, what can fathers do? What can mothers do? Tell us a little bit about what you can, what you can regarding that.
Well, the biggest thing you can do right from the get go is before an incident actually happens, is go to your kid's school and talk to the administrators, talk to them and find out what their protocols are. Have they set up a reunification plan? Have they set up a lockdown plan? What's their organization for implementing the police? How are they going to be contacting 911? I mean, there's applications out there that can do all that now. There's so many different ways that they can help combat this. And literally, a locked door is one of the simplest ways. And every school has locks on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple little things like that. So sit down with your administrators and just go, kind of run me through what your plan is for this type of scenario. And then volunteer at your kid's school. The teachers will
Mm-hmm.
always take help from parents. You can always be there.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a couple of hours, say, hey, I'd like to come in for, from 2 to 3 o'clock, and then you're right there at pickup. There you go. Or right at drop off, you just go park, and then you walk in, take your kid into class, you hang out for a couple of hours, and then you go out and you go do your thing. It's little tiny things like that you can do. Volunteer during lunch, volunteer during recess.
Mm-hmm.
It's things like that you can do. And that's going to open it up to you developing a relationship with the school administrators and all that. And it allows you to have these hard conversations and talking about, hey, what are you going to do if there's an active shooter for this?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going to take the kids? Where are we going to hide the kids? How are we going to protect the kids? What's the
Mm-hmm.
plan if it's a group of people that are trying to take over the school, like a Beslan or a Mumbai or something like that? You know
Wow.
what's you know Have they thought that far in advance? Because most active shooter programs think of just one shooter, not multiple shooters.
And there's several situations where it's been two or three people. Is
Yeah,
that, yeah, not just one? So
yeah.
that's legit.
Luckily, they haven't hit the United States yet, but
Oh, man. Yeah, so far. So what do you, I heard that I think it was the governor of Tennessee and even Dan Crenshaw, the senator in Texas, they were talking about putting armed guards at each of the schools. Like we protect all these dignitaries, we protect all these government buildings.
yeah.
We have all these protections in place, security guards and everything. What how do you feel about like having armed guards at schools? Is that something you feel like that's good legislation that they're promoting or they're asking for?
I definitely think it is. And literally, here's the national average is like $65,000 for an armed security guard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you think about that for every single school. Yeah, that's a big number when you start talking about every individual school. But here's also the reality. We have a number of vets that don't have jobs.
Mm. Yeah.
They're already trained. They
Yeah.
already know what to look for,
Yeah, that's true.
and what the standards are. That's something for the lawmakers to decide. I know what my personal standards would be, and I'll be honest, they're very high.
Mm-hmm.
But the realities of it is, it's going to cost less than $100,000 per school. So
Yeah. Well,
what's our kids' lives worth?
yeah, that's
That's really
true.
what it comes down to.
I mean, I was reading some of the comments and some of the on some of the social media under the governor of Tennessee and Dan Crenshaw's commentary about having armed guards and they talked about the dollar amount and there's some parents I'm sure that would take a day off once a month.
Yeah.
You get 30 parents, take one day off a month. You got somebody there every day
Yes.
who's concealed carry potentially or who's ready to defend the school. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, I would volunteer for something like that if that's what it meant to keep my kids safe,
Well,
and
yeah, and
whatnot.
when the reality of all this is too is if the average active shooter, at least the ones that we've had here stateside, um, if they know that the school has armed personnel on campus, they leave it alone. They
What are the
don't want the
statistics?
fight. They
What are the
want they
stats on
want the
that?
body count.
So what are the stats on that?
Um, what is it? Well, even just this last weekend or last week, she specifically chose that school because she knew that there was no armed presence on that campus.
Wow,
I
that's
mean, it
legit.
says so right in her manifesto.
So so the answer then, in my opinion, and correct, I know what your opinion is too. The answer isn't gun control. It's we need to get more. I think who was it that said this? I think it was I was listening to Patrick Bet David had a conference at a podcast. He says, if you look at the cities with the least amount of crime, or the states, he said the states with the least amount of crime. He says
Hmm.
the number one state with the least amount of crime is Idaho. And he says 8% of the people in Idaho have guns and conceal carry. He says, then you go to places with the biggest gun control laws and
Yeah,
you see what their crime is like. He says Illinois and some of these California, these other places like Chicago is the worst place ever with the biggest gun control ever. So it's like,
yeah,
it's just a case study. It's literally a case study. People who know that there's going to be a potential armed response are going to avoid that
yep,
situation. They go to the gun-free zones or whatever on
yeah,
purpose because they know they can get away with it a lot more easily.
yeah,
And what drives somebody psychologically, what drives somebody to do this is typically like you said, they want the body count. That they're nihilistic. They think that life is not worth living. They think that nobody should be alive. They think that human beings are a cancer on the planet. They think,
yeah,
some of these other things. And so they're like, I'm just going to go kill as many people as possible to and then take myself out because life is not worth living. Well, if you don't give them the chance to do that, they're going to think twice. And number one, and number two, if they do decide to still choose that, you're going to mitigate the damage because they'll be taken out way
yep,
before they could get the damage done that they were hoping to get done. Like
yep,
I don't want anyone to die, but if you could take the 6 people that died and reduce it down to 2 people, and then the shooter gets taken out, that's better than 6.
yes,
I don't like the 2 people. I don't want the 2 people to die. I don't want that at all. Like that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm
right,
saying is that 2 is better than 6.
yeah,
0 is better than 2. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and that's to me, that's just the answer is, of course, you want to vet people. You want to make sure that you've got, sane individuals. But I think somebody else said the other day, they're like, listen, if you think about how many guns are in America, how many Americans are here,
yeah,
uh, it's not, if there was a problem, if there was a psychosis about guns, we would know it. With all the
yeah.
guns that are in the hands of citizens, like, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. Well, and statistically too, as soon as a active killer meets opposition, they stop killing people
Hmm. Wow.
100% of the time.
Wow. Well, especially if they're taken out, but even if
Well, that's
before they're
usually
taken,
what happens, but I mean, the reality of it is if they're taken out or they get some type of opposition, because there's been times where unarmed people, numerous times when unarmed people have taken out people with guns and fought them and took away their guns.
oh wow, that's
They
awesome.
no longer are killing people.
Hmm. And so there's a level of bravery with that's required,
Yeah,
or a level of courage that's required. And hopefully some of those people have one of the things I think that you get that's great about, I know Fight Back Nation, don't you guys also talk about ways to self-defense, not just carrying and shooting, but also disarming and taking
oh yeah,
active shooters out?
yep. That's
Oh,
actually one of the major things that we teach is how to do disarms of people that have a long gun or a pistol. We teach both techniques, and they're almost identical. So you can do one technique and it's gonna solve both problems. So it's very cool the way that it works. And um, having been the bad guy, having been the good guy, I'll take being the good guy over being the bad guy anytime, because some of
yeah.
these teachers, like literally, I had a little 5'2", 103 pound gal just rock my world, and Literally, I'm almost twice, well, I'm more than twice her size. So, you know, if she can throw me around using that technique and disarm me, pretty good chance that just about anybody's going to be doing. We've even had a gal that we trained that's in a wheelchair that was able to do the technique.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
have you had any success stories with any actual activities with some of these trainings, or not just, it doesn't have to be one that's yours, but maybe somebody being trained out there, taken out. Have you heard any stories like that anywhere?
oh, let's see, about 5 years ago, there was a PE coach that jumped onto a kid that was walking through the campus shooting. Luckily, he didn't hit anybody prior to that, but he had a rifle of some sort. I don't think it was an AR type, but he was disarmed. There was two students and another teacher about 3 years ago. I think it was back in the Midwest that did the same thing. The shooter's getting ready to go start shooting everything up, and they actually just jumped on him and just basically dogpiled him and took all of his stuff away from him, and then held him there for the police to get there.
That's awesome.
You know, and
That's
it's just,
awesome.
it takes, yeah, you're going up against an armed suspect unarmed, and the realities of it is, if you have some baseline of training or just the will and desire, you're going to keep them from shooting and hurting people while you're engaged with them.
Hmm. That's excellent. And so with training, though, of course, you're going to
Yeah.
have that higher level of
Hmm.
confidence, and a higher level of competency. And so, Fight Back Nation. So, if you're a teacher out there listening to this, or you're a parent, and you're of children who are school age, going to school, and
Yep.
you want to make sure that your kids are at schools where teachers are trained to do this kind of stuff, find a place. I mean, Fight Back Nation is somebody that's going to be able to give you. Is there a website? Where do they where do they get more information about it if they need to, Todd?
Yeah. So they can go to fightbacknation.org, or they can go to nielsentraining.com, NIELSEN training.com, or bpmfinc.com. Send a message to any of those. I will get you every bit of information that you could ever possibly ask for.
And if even if you guys can't do the training, I'm sure you'll connect them with somebody locally that has a similar
Yeah.
training program.
Yeah, I've got friends that teach counteractive shooter programs all over the U.S. So I know I can find somebody that's within about 3 hours of them. Unless you live in Texas, then it might be 4 hours.
Texas seems like it'd be even closer because you got so many folks down there.
I just don't have as many friends down in Texas. That's all.
Oh, all right.
And
That's
Texas is huge.
so if you're listening to this and you are a trainer and you have a company that does this, reach out to Todd as well, and
Yes.
create a connection so that he has more friends in Texas that have this opportunity and then this kind of training.
Yes, please
And
do.
so, what can we share with, or if you're a student maybe listening to this, or if you have kids, what can parents do? You talked about what parents can do at the school level with the administrators, but what are some things that if you could tell us, a mom or dad, how to help their son or daughter prepare for something like this or survive something like this, what kind of message would you give there?
One of the biggest things is just knowing and understanding that at least the schools, if it's a public school, it's federally mandated that they have some form of a plan, and sitting down and explaining that plan to your child, and letting them know that there are things in place that will protect you.
Hmm.
And then sitting down with the teachers and having that one-on-one and that face-to-face with them, going, look, my child is having some concerns about this. What are your personal protocols for this? You know, here in Utah, we allow our teachers to conceal carry
Mm.
while they're in school, on campus, and everything else. And I know of a few teachers that my children's schools that carry, and I'm open to training those types of people at just about any time that they want, you know,
Yeah.
because it affects my child, and just being very upfront with your children, and letting them know that you love them and you're going to do everything that you can to protect them, and the police are going to do everything that they can to protect them. You know, it's a kind of a symbiotic relationship where we all have to work together as our community and show our children that we're there to protect them and help them feel secure in the areas that of being in the school. And the other part of it
Mhm.
is be aware of what's going on around your school. You know,
Mhm.
if somebody's giving you the kind of the creeper vibe,
Mhm.
you know, you got to act on that. You know, you got to tell somebody that's in charge.
Hey,
You know,
that
let them
kid
know
or
that, hey, you know, this kid's talking about bombs and blowing things up and killing cats and killing dogs and mutilating this and mutilating that. You may want to be paying attention to that.
yeah.
You know, or hey, I see this kid getting bullied all the time. Maybe we need to reach out to that kid and make sure that they're okay. Make sure
Yeah.
they're not getting bullied. Or if you see
Mhm.
a bunch of kids bullying somebody, hey, knock that crap off.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
good stuff.
yeah. There, I mean, there's no need to be sitting there bullying people. You know,
Because
it's
that isn't that one of the major triggers for these active shooters and in all
yeah,
of their manifestos that I've ever heard about, they always talk about how they were bullied, treated poorly, or some other trigger similar to that where they just
yeah,
didn't feel like life was worth living because it was no point because they were being treated so poorly.
yeah.
And so recognizing some of those signs ahead of time, that's excellent. I think I had a chance to talk to my son afterwards and said, "Look, you know what did in for those that haven't watched the interview, I did an interview with my son who was at the high school
Yeah,
when
that
the
was a good one.
active shooter threat was there, asking him about his experience and what he went through and emotionally and how he felt like all of the students kind of came together and they rallied behind each other a little bit. And that's excellent. I think that's really good. That's a really good show. To me, that was a really good show of morale and competency. That there's clearly a plan. I don't know the efficiency of the plan, but clearly there was enough of a plan that they felt protected in that moment. They executed it properly, or at least as much as you can in a high
Right.
stress scenario. The police came through, cleared the whole area, and it came back. And now my son's like, thankfully, they offering counseling to any of the kids who are there
Yeah.
who maybe need some help to kind of work through it. But as parents, as dads and moms, we need to also be talking with our kids. And you know what really sucks? That this is the world we're in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, I agree. The best day of my life would be the day that I'm no longer needed.
yeah. Like, why do I have to talk to my kids about this? I don't know, but we just do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. I don't want to like I want to help my kids with their homework, not help
Yeah.
them, through. And I barely understand some of these new math techniques they're doing, but man, I don't want to help them through a traumatic experience where they have some PTSD because of an active shooter.
Right.
That's not what I don't have training for that. Thankfully, I mean, as moms and dads and as parents, we have some love that we can offer and some support. And I mean, as much as maybe your children need to have some training, maybe you as a mom or dad can get some training too. And then like I shared earlier, that one mom that went in on campus and grabbed her kids and
Oh yeah.
brought them back out. I mean, that's a heroic mom as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if she got in the way of anybody or caused, but shoot, the fact that she went in there and got her kids out is excellent. Not that I'm saying that every mom or dad should rush down to their kids' school as soon as they're an active shooter threat because they don't want to get
Right.
away. But like I was telling you, Todd, and you shared with me that if I live across the street from a grade school where my daughter goes, and
Yeah.
if I start hearing some bullets fly, I'm going to have a faster response over there than the cops will.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
so I'm going to take care of what feel like I need to take care of and get over there, and hopefully I don't get mistaken as one of the perpetrators. The idea though would be to take the perpetrator out and be there ready and waiting and say, "Hey, look, the dude's gone and I took
Yeah.
care of it. Here's the scenario." But I'm not advocating for every Yahoo in the neighborhood to get a gun and just start charging. But I
Right.
am advocating for is people getting the proper training, people understanding that this is the world we live in, and that
Yeah.
not only to get the proper training, but that there are places that will train you properly, like
Right.
Todd Nielsen,
Yeah.
and your training is excellent. Like find if you're in Utah, anywhere in Utah, or what are the states you train most in? I know you train a lot in California and Utah.
Utah, Nevada, California, and Texas.
Okay.
Those are the
So if
ones I
you're
train the most in. However, I've been in every single state of the union with the exception of New York to do firearms or tactical training or this type of training. So I've been in every single state of the union, and it's I don't have a problem traveling, especially if it's going to do something that's going to save lives.
Yeah. So if you've got a group of people, maybe a group of parents, maybe a school, couple schools, a school district that needs some good training, reach out to Todd
Yeah.
at fightbacknation.org. Is that right?
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
does that go direct to you, or is there a whole another group there?
That goes actually to the Acosta family. They manage all that stuff there. We I just go as a lead instructor with them
Okay.
to support that and continue Dave's legacy.
So you do training for active shooters with pistols and with rifles,
Yep.
and right now it's mostly one assailant, but if there's multiple assailants, you'd be able to train on that as well.
Yeah, I used to train. I've trained law enforcement since the early 2000s in active shooter and active killer programs, and I've trained them for specific stuff like the Beslan attack. I've trained them for specific stuff for single attackers, multiple attackers, or even battalion or small unit type attackers.
Nice. What, if you had a message to just kind of help share with people to get people really wake up to the reality where we are, and then inspire them to make the necessary take the necessary steps to be ready for stuff like this. What final message might you have, Todd, to offer?
First and foremost, teach your kids and teach all those around you to respect life and to um, enjoy their life and show how having a good life is so much better than having an angry life. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part is just be aware of what's going on around you, and carry your tools with you. If you have a CCW permit, carry. If
Yeah.
you don't want to carry a gun, carry a knife. Know how to use it. Get the training that you need. You carry a gun, get the training that you need. No one understand angles. No one understand ballistics. No one understand how a blade cuts. No one understand how to defend yourself. If you don't want to use a weapon per se, learn how to use a flashlight as a defensive tool or an impact weapon. Okay, or learn how to fight.
Yeah.
There's so many different avenues that you can go down in your own personal defense. You can use those same skills to help you in an active killer event, whether it be at a school, at a playground, at some type of you know art and wine festival or some other type of festival or basketball game, football game, whatever it happens to be. You can still utilize those same skills. And to be honest with you, your powers of observation are going to be the most important ones.
Mm-hmm.
You can just observe, okay, well, that doesn't look right. Okay, well, why doesn't it look right? And then go investigate it or give it to somebody that is in authority to go and investigate it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the law enforcement entity that's there, an administrator, a security guard, or whatever it is, just let them know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. You tell me, you go do your thing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Todd. I appreciate you being on.
You bet.
Your wealth of knowledge in regards to this area, and what's crazy is that it's becoming more and more needed, more and more necessary to
Yeah.
get us into a position where we're going to be, where we're going to need to defend ourselves. And self-defense is I feel like it's a God-given,
Yeah.
right of ours to defend ourselves, even if that means that we have to take a life. And that's sad. It's sad that we're in a place, but if somebody's going to present their situation where it's me or them, I'd rather it be them than me, especially since if I'm defending and just being, in a place of defense. I do not promote attacking. I do not promote
Nope.
offensive actions, but I definitely think that if somebody's going to do that to you, you have every right to do what you need to do to defend yourself, to defend your family, and defend your property. And let's all get more prepared and stay ready minded. You've been
Yep.
listening to Prepper Talk Radio. If you didn't catch any of the websites for Todd's, to get a hold of Todd, just send an email or contact us at, join our Facebook page and send us a message. We reply pretty quickly there. Find us on Instagram. We're there as well under Prepper Talk Radio, and almost every social we're Prepper Talk Radio. I think TikTok is PTR podcast. But we're everywhere. If you send us a message, we will definitely get these guys and get you guys connected to these guys. So thank you for listening, and we appreciate your time today. And thanks again, Todd, for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Have a great day and stay ready-minded. You bet.